We're getting a closer look at earnings for Canada's largest airline. And Ari, is it safe to say they're soaring?
Yeah, I'd say at least today the stock soared, Cynthia, because investors seem to really like the response from Air Canada reporting its quarterly results. Now, it still has a long way to go to get back to pre-pandemic levels, but last quarter, Air Canada beat on analyst estimates for earnings results, including for profits and revenue. The country's largest carrier also announced a new stock buyback program. And it's citing the turnaround to lower fuel and aircraft maintenance costs. And this is even with the roller coaster ride that was the pilot contract negotiations from September. It ended up leading to a wage increase of 42% by 2027 in the new contract for those 5,000 unionized pilots. And Air Canada says it might see a financial impact of that new contract by 2025. But investors didn't seem too concerned, especially since Air Canada still increased its full year outlook. So a lot of optimism from the company and from investors. The stock soared today by 14%, Cynthia. That's the best day for the stock since May of last year.
Pretty good. Okay. And we're getting a look at job data south of the border. But the issue is with one company in particular. And those issues are totally overshadowing the report, Ari.
Yeah, so we've talked about it a few times here, Cynthia. The ongoing strikes at Boeing, 33,000 machinists continue to be on the picket lines, and that is impacting not only the company's bottom line, but the U.S.'s total jobs count for the latest report for October from the U.S. Labor Department, which showed that only, looks like, 12,000 net new jobs were added to the workforce last month, and that's versus the 110,000 that were expected. So that does play a factor into this. In addition, though, Cynthia, there was those two hurricanes and that also impacted the jobs numbers, but it's definitely not the best look heading into the U.S. election. But hopefully voters will keep in mind that there's a lot that goes into these jobs reports. But still, investors were positive today because Boeing put forward a new contract that will be voted on Monday. It will give a pay raise of 38%. The last offer was for 35%, but the union actually voted against it. So we'll see what happens. That vote comes on Monday, one day before the election.
Companies sure had a rough few months. Now, let's speak about the U.S. presidential election. Of course, it is still too close to call, but some investors appear to be voting against Donald Trump, or Ari, at least against his media company.
Yeah, so it does seem too close to call, and it depends where you look, because the average poll has it pretty much split 50-50. But if you go to betting markets, it says Trump's going to win by a margin of more than 60%. So there was also a recent media development that analysts noted that many of the bets on those sites are actually done through fraudulent means to manipulate the numbers. So with that report that came out, shares of Trump Media and Technology Group, the parent company of Truth Social, which Donald Trump is a majority shareholder in, well, the stock value has plummeted 40% in 3 days. So that's quite a massive decline. It's absolutely staggering. And what that really tells us, because there's been no meaningful earnings news from the company itself, so we have to assume that the stock's performance is tied to updates about the U.S. election. So if the case is that maybe investors feel that Trump has less of a chance of winning, then maybe they're trying to get the kind of profits that they can now by selling the stock, because if he does lose the election, the stock certainly will plummet even more.
One would think. All right, Ari, have yourself a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Cynthia.
See you Monday.